Rabbi Menken from the Coalition for Jewish Values. Rabbi, a frequent guest on our show. We love having him on. Rabbi, good to see you.
It's good to be back, and I think we met here last year, if I'm not wrong.
We did.
Yeah.
That's why we started getting you on. You're always good to have on. We got a lot to talk about in 10 minutes, so let's get right to it, Rabbi. And let's start with what is going on in Israel right now. Netanyahu might be indicted. What's the deal politically with his ruling coalition?
First of all, we don't really do Israel's affairs because Israel does Israel's internal affairs. So I don't really follow the politics as much as you might think I do. But my impression is it's kind of like the Donald Trump Russia investigation. They're just after it to see whatever they can find. I mean, the man accepted a few cigars, and that's a federal case.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, they're just trying whatever they can do to rip him down, and it's a very familiar story, and I bet it's happening in first world democracies all over the world, But same thing we see happening to Donald Trump.
The grand plan that was going to be brokered between the Israelis, and I know we're going to get off this topic in a minute, but I just want to get your comments on it. The so-called grand plan that was going to be brokered between Israel and the Palestinians, with Jared Kushner and Mohammed bin Salman at the center of it, that has completely disintegrated now with the MBS problem. So where does the Palestinian situation go from here?
The Palestinians at this point are not prepared to accept anything that's not going to result in the eventual destruction of Israel. So there's no deal that they will take that Israel could possibly accept and survive. So that's the impasse right now.
So the idea of a two-state solution that Kushner, senior advisor to the president, was pushing for, that's going nowhere.
It never was. I mean, the Palestinians are never going to accept it because their objective is not a state. Their objective is the destruction of a state.
So as a result of that, there really is no negotiation.
I don't think it was ever, that. I know the president said, he's the great deal maker and he's going to make a great deal, et cetera, but the problem is you can't make a deal the same way he had to walk away from North Korea just yesterday.
Right. So whatever state, whatever the boundaries are, the Palestinians at the end of the day are not going to accept it.
That's the problem.
Coupled with they have a tough situation right now because President Abbas, his term expired, eight years ago?
He is in the 15th year of his 4-year term.
Of a 4-year term, he just keeps being president. It's like the guy in Venezuela. I don't want to make the comparison, but he had a 4-year term. 15 years later, he's still there. Do any of the so-called Palestinian human rights activists talk about the fact that the democracy has been stripped away from the Palestinians by Abbas and by Hamas? No. You never hear that. No. They'll only talk about what Israel is doing wrong. Well, we're Jews. We're used to that story. Right, but they have stripped the Palestinian people of a lot of authority. But the problem you have is, Hamas representatives keep getting elected. That's the problem. Well, they haven't run anymore. But Abbas knows that if he would run right now, he would lose. So he just doesn't call an election. That's right. Right. Well, I had a chance to interview his chief negotiator, life man, I can't remember. Saeed Barakat? Yes. Yeah, okay. I got a chance to interview him when I was in the Middle East in February. No, this is February, in December. Mm-hmm. And the Israeli regime. That's what he said. Exactly like Ilhan Omar. Exactly like, if you can't tell the difference between a totalitarian government and a democracy, there's a problem. Yes, and I remember asking him about, you guys won't even meet with Kushner. You wouldn't even meet with the president's representatives. And he says, why would we meet with somebody whose objective is to destroy us? And it's like, I'm like, sir, the objective is to destroy you, is to give you a state. How do you turn that into destroying you? The same way that, look, the intention in 1948 was a momentous massacre. Literally, that's what the Arab League was calling for. And their Nakba, their disaster, is that they fell 99% short of their goal. Rabbi Yaakov Menken with us from the Coalition for Jewish Values. I want to get your take here on this third late-term abortion that's sweeping through the U.S., but you're with the Coalition of Jewish Values. Tell us a little bit about your organization, Rabbi Menken.
Well, what I told a coalition of religious freedom advocates just yesterday was, look, there really are Jews out there who are pro-life, pro-tradition, pro-family, and we represent all five of us. Because people don't know that the entire Orthodox community, the mainstream of the traditionally observant community, which is the only growing segment of the Jewish community, is fabulously in favor. I mean, there's a reason why you call them Judeo-Christian ethics. You know what we call Judeo-Christian ethics? Cultural appropriation. Because it's all about spreading the Jewish biblical message of ethics and values, and more power to you. But, you know, it's something where we're supposed to be on the same page. And when pro-values Christians and all the Jews are on the outside of the room yelling about how they're wrong, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And that's not good for America.
How do you fix it?
Well, that's what we're trying to do day by day, is just to present the fact that there really is a Jewish pro-values message, which is deeply rooted in Jewish tradition. There's a reason why traditional Jews are all in favor of these values. The Reform movement, the liberal Judaism, adopted progressivism as its religion. And I can walk you through exactly how that happened, but literally progressivism is their religious belief. And that means an abandonment of everything the Bible says.
Well, I've asked this question and never got an answer. I've asked it for 50 years, 40 years. And I'm from the New York, New Jersey area, as you know. And I've asked this so many questions. It's like when you sit down and have a conversation with somebody like yourself in the Jewish community, you agree on all the issues,
right?
But then I ask them, why do you vote for the Democrats? Like, why? Like, why does throughout the last 50, 60 years, the majority of Jewish people vote for Democrats? Why?
Well, again, the majority of Jews don't share your views, our views. The majority still is caught in liberalism. It's amazing how many people that we are picking up who grew up in, not Orthodoxy, they're not observant, but they understand what values are. And they get that the traditional rabbis are the ones who've got them right, so they're signing up with us. But the idea that, the overwhelming majority of Jews vote Democratic is because they are actually devoted to liberalism. Now, in the Orthodox community, I would say that has changed completely. The Orthodox gave in Lakewood, New Jersey, which is a huge rabbinical seminary, and the whole town that's grown and blossomed outside that seminary, there's like tens of thousands of Orthodox Jews there. They delivered the largest pro-Trump percentage of any town in New Jersey in 2016.
Really?
And the satisfaction
Lakewood,
with President Lakewood, New Jersey,
down at the shore.
And you look at Borough Park and Flatbush and Williamsburg, and you got these little islands of red in New York City blue. Because the Orthodox community, the Jewish Orthodox communities are very, very solidly. At this point, according to a survey that was done by one of the Orthodox magazines, satisfaction with the president's job performance is about 90%. It's astronomical in the Orthodox community.
Right. Well, that makes sense also for what the president has done. Let's get to third-term abortions, which is, here's what's really happened with a lot of the Christian and Catholic community like myself that has accepted Roe v. Wade.
Right.
We become desensitized to it. I'm a Catholic, I'm pro-life, but I'm not for overturning Roe v. Wade. It's been there for 45 years. I get it. I get the pro-choice movement. I understand it. And you kind of look the other way, right? You don't really want to talk about it. But then what they've done, and it started in Virginia with this late-term abortion, is they really rubbed it in your face and they said, that's not good enough for us, all the things we said. We want to be able to exterminate a baby at any time. Either if it's out of the womb, out. We want that freedom to do that. And for a lot of us, it was a wake-up call. And it was like, wow, what have I done here? Who have I elected? And it's got a lot of casual Catholics and Christians really upset because it's like, I didn't really bargain for that. Am I making sense?
I think so, but I think that the logical result of that is to recognize that Roe v. Wade fundamentally approached the question in a wrong way. It's amazing how the left has succeeded in boxing in what's defined as pro-life.
Yes.
They believe in order to be pro-life, you have to be an extremist who believes no abortion under any circumstance, even when mother and child will both die, by letting nature take its course. And that is a position the overwhelming majority of Americans would not go with. And that's what they're trying to do. But meanwhile, if you look at what's actually going on in the legislatures are every piece of pro-life, quote-unquote, legislation includes a carve-out. Carve-out for the life of the mother. Carve-out for rape or incest. Usually all three of those. And when you talk to the overwhelming majority of Americans, they would completely agree with that. I mean, look at what the Democrats did in New York. Look at what the Democrats just refused to do in the Senate. These are things which are completely common sense. The average American would completely favor these things, and because of the way the debate has been reframed by the left, people are not hearing what's actually going on. The idea that a baby that is born alive after an abortion should be left to die takes us back to the Greek barbarians who said, well, if you have a daughter, expose it, leave it to die. I mean, that's what we want for America? I mean, that's ridiculous. And what they did in New York, the idea that because the baby has to be delivered immediately, therefore we should kill the baby. It's ridiculous. And by the way, I'll take it very personally. My first grandchild was born several weeks ago, and because of a medical emergency, he had to be delivered early. But you save the mother and the child. That's the idea.
So explain what was, we've heard cursory, but we're with Rabbi Menken. Rabbi Menken, so tell us about the New York bill. What does it actually do? The one that Governor Cuomo signed, and there was a big fanfare with it. But explain what exactly it does.
Well, the most critical thing is that it completely decriminalized an illegal abortion at any stage of the game. There is a woman who was speaking out about this because her ex-boyfriend ran up to her and stabbed her deliberately in order to ensure she did not give birth to the child the two of them were going to have together. And he did indeed murder the baby. According to this new law, he did nothing different than stabbing anybody in the gut. That's all. Didn't matter. You know, the idea of Roe v. Wade is that a abortion should be conducted by a woman with all the severity and gravitas of having a nose job. And that's what New York State established in law. There's just no such thing as a criminal abortion. It's never wrong. It's never punishable, let's put it that way. And that's, obviously that's crazy ridiculous. And they were cheering. They were jumping up and down. Wow, we passed this law to make abortion completely an open field because it's, like I said, like a nose job.
Well, what is their ultimate objective?
They're at war with life. As soon as they finished with the abortion thing, they went right on to euthanasia and assisted suicide.
Why? I mean, what is the goal?
Because they're only after life as a utility.
But why? I mean, what's the goal? What's their objective?
The amazing thing is they talk about this while they claim to be in favor of human rights and civil rights. It's like, wait a minute. If you actually cared about human beings, you would not be talking about these things.
See, this is what I need your help with. Like, when you look at the socialist movement in the U.S., you get their objective. Their objective is to eliminate the country, have an administrative state with no borders, and the elites tell us what to do, and they're part of the elite. So power. So we get it. I mean, I get it. But you look at you called it the war on life, and I ask myself again today, what's their objective? What's their objective with, late term after birth abortion, with euthanasia? And what is their ultimate goal? What are they looking to achieve?
Well, you know what? You can unite all these things because these are the same guys who are running the anti-Israel movement, right? And anti-Semitism, which is just another euphemism for hating Jews. It's always been about Jewish values. It's always been about Judaism at the root of it. And we're talking about Judeo-Christian ethics. We're talking about American values. We're talking about the founding values of America. They're at war with values across the board. I mean, that's why they're so anti-Israel and anti the Jewish community, and they're anti-preserving life, and they're anti-tradition, and they're anti-marriage across the board, again and again and again. It's just, because they yell and scream and sloganeer and shut down debate. They don't want a conversation happening because they're about talking points. There's a young man here that I was introduced to yesterday. He's an African-American political candidate. He said 18 months ago he wanted to go debate Ben Shapiro, and he started reading all about what conservatives think about and studied the material intensely in order to beat them. And the more he read, the more he realized that he was wrong. The more he recognized, you have to be well-read and well-studied, and then you naturally gravitate towards these values. Well, the very opposite is true of liberalism.
Unbelievable, Rabbi. So, I don't know where this is going, but I think it's been a wake-up call for many, many people on this third-term abortion, and it's now going to actually be, this is amazing, it's actually going to be, polls are showing it's actually going to be an issue in the 2020 campaign.
It should be, because this is insanity, and the average American needs to recognize that by the definitions of what's really being discussed and debated today, they're pro-life. Don't let the pro-life label be boxed into this extremist position, no abortion or any circumstances ever, which is, even the majority of Catholics, I don't think, believe that at this point. It may still be official doctrine or whatever, but I don't know what they would do in case of medical emergencies either. What happens when you have the opportunity to save both? Obviously, you terminate the pregnancy, but terminating the pregnancy should come with saving the life of the baby as well. Is the baby's life of any value whatsoever? That's the question you need to answer. If you answer that question in the affirmative, you're pro-life.
Rabbi Menken, so we've had a presidential candidate running for vice president of the Jewish faith, Lieberman, right?
Yes.
We've never had a Jewish candidate on a major ticket for president. Is it going to happen in 2020?
Well, Bernie Sanders tried, right? But he typifies the genetic Jew who has no connection to Judaism or Jewish values. The Christian community is very confused about that, because you can't not believe Christianity and be a Christian. But you absolutely can believe nothing to do with Judaism and be a Jew because of the Jewish peoplehood idea. So, he's as close as we're going to come. I don't really think he's going to make it. I don't think that Mayor Bloomberg is going to make it. I don't know if, there's a lot of the community that probably is still not ready. I mean, people talked about, the amount of people who weren't ready to have a black president. Well, guess what? We are. Especially with the current environment where so many people are trying to describe any Jew believes that a Jew ought to be able to live in Israel as a Zionist and therefore evil and wrong, they're not going to vote for him. So, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not even sure it would be good for it to happen, honestly. Because the accusation of double loyalty and Israel, and if he was as nice, if a Jewish president would be as nice to Israel as President Trump is, they'd say dual loyalty,
So what you're saying is a Jewish president would almost put Israel in a tougher position, because everything he did, all policy moves that were favorable to Israel would be looked at in a different light.
I'm actually amazed that Jared Kushner and Jason Dov Greenblatt, both of whom are observant Jews, are getting away with doing as much of this as they are. But it's all because President Trump is very clearly not Jewish, but just, he likes and loves Jewish observance. He respects it a lot.
So what about Mayor Bloomberg? We just had I think Sanders is going to be the nominee, so I think you're going to have a major party candidate running for President Sanders. But I just had another gentleman out from Newsweek who said he really thought Mayor Mike Bloomberg, was going to be the nominee.
I don't see it. I just don't think, by the time he left office, he did a great job in many areas, but there wasn't that level of, he was a very good mayor, but he didn't have that level of respect. And as we see with Rudy Giuliani, it doesn't necessarily translate. Rudy did a phenomenal job. He probably would have made a very good president too, but it just doesn't necessarily translate.
He couldn't win a single state.
Right.
He won 0 primaries And he started out as a front runner. Remember?
And Bloomberg is going to be seen. I mean, the Democrats have spent so much time over the last 4 years denigrating a billionaire who runs.
Yeah.
So how are they going to vote for a billionaire who runs?
From New York City.
Right, from New York City, no less.
We're out of time. Rabbi Menken, thank you for being with us.
It's been great to be back.
Always good to have you, Rabbi, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, wrapping up 2 days of live broadcast at Trump Pack, TPAC here on Radio Row. It's been wonderful to have you with us.